Every now and then somebody's going to ask me about the day Elvis died. Most everybody in Memphis that listens to Rock 103 knows that I was at Graceland the day Elvis died. So here's what happened. Pretty much, I'll try to put this in a nutshell so it doesn't sound like a nutcase telling you this story, but this is what happened. That morning, I was having breakfast with Silky Sullivan. I think Rick Dees was with us and a friend of Silky's from England by the name of Nick Chappell. Before we left the breakfast hutch in Overton Square that morning, it was Silky's place, his breakfast place in Overton Square. Silky said, David, before Nick Chappell, before he goes back to England, why don't you take him by Elvis's house and show it to him? Well, I thought that was a pretty good idea, so when we split up, all of us that morning for breakfast, Nick and I got in the car, and first thing we did, best I can recall, we drove over to Sam Phillips' studio on Union Avenue, who was, of course, Elvis's recording engineer, and then Sun Studios right there at Madison and Marshall. Well, we spent a few minutes there with Stan Kessler and Roland Janes, and I think Knox Phillips was there that day. Sam wasn't there. But this was sometime before, it's around 11 o'clock, something like that, Tuesday, August the 16th, Tuesday, August the 16th, 1977. A hot day. You could see the mirage coming up off the street. So we stayed for a little while, then I told Nick that we'll take a little drive down Beale Street. You could drive down Beale Street back then. You can't now. They've got it blocked off for businesses and tourism and that kind of stuff. So we drove down Beale Street, and I think we drove over to the YMCA up there, the Fogelman Y, for a few minutes. And I forgot why. I think Nick might have been staying there. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, from there we headed out to Graceland. And this was sometime after noon. It was we got there probably sometime around 12:15, 12:30 that afternoon. And Vester Presley was at the gate. I had known Vester since I was a kid. There was nobody else there. We stopped the car, and I walked over to the gate to say hi to him. And I saw Elvis's Stutz Blackhawk was parked up in front of the house. It was parked right in front of the house, and I saw Ginger Alden, the girl he was dating at the time. Her car, a little red, kind of an orange-red Triumph convertible, was parked right in front of Elvis's Stutz Blackhawk, that Lincoln that he had customized into a two-seat sports car. So I saw it up at the front. I said, Vester, that's Elvis's Stutz up there, isn't it? He said, yeah, David, it's up there. I said, can I go up there and look at it with my friend here? He's from England. He's getting ready to go back. He said, yeah, I've got to go in the house. So hang on a second. We'll get on the golf cart and we can ride up. So this was about 12:30, something like that. We rode up to the front of the house. And I remember Vester said for us to stick around the front. He had to go in for a few minutes. He'd be right back out. But, just to hang out front, and he'd be back out in a minute. So Nick and I were standing over there looking at the Stutz Blackhawk and just hanging out. And then just within a couple of minutes, Vester came back outside, and he said, David, you need to get back on the golf cart. Something's come up. You guys are going to have to come back another time. So I tried to give him some money for lunch. He said, no, another time we'll go to lunch, something like that. So we got back on the golf cart and rode back down to the gate, the Graceland gate. So I said to Nick, they have a 50-cent student lunch over at the Baptist Student Center at the University of Memphis, and we can go over there and hang out. I can play some boogie woogie. We can have lunch. I can show the campus of Memphis State University. It was Memphis State, of course, before it became University of Memphis. So we drove over there. We got there just around 1 o'clock, something like that, and I parked in the back. We walked in the back door. And as soon as we walked in the back door, a student came running through the front door screaming, turn on the TV, Elvis Presley has just been rushed to the hospital. So we both, couldn't believe it because we just left the house. So we ran to the television set over in like the little student lounge, tried to get the TV on. It wouldn't come on. The director came out and said, David, that television's not working. So we ran across the street to the Presbyterian Student Center. We walked in, there were already like 20 students on the floor in front of an RCA or whatever kind of console television. And I could see George Klein on the TV in front of the emergency room at the Baptist Hospital. And he made the announcement that Elvis had died. Well, we hadn't been gone from the house for just a few minutes, and it was absolutely unbelievable because first thing came to my mind, we might have been maybe a couple the last people to see him alive, because I remember I asked Bester before he went into the house if Elvis was there. He said, yeah. I said, could you ask him to come outside and say hi for a second? He said, no, David, he's been playing handball and he's getting some rest. He's got to go do a show. I think he said he was leaving for North Carolina. I couldn't remember exactly, but he said he was getting ready for a show. So anyway, I ran into the hallway to call my mom. She was working as an accountant for the Hyatt Regency in Poydras next to the Superdome in New Orleans at the time. And I called her to tell her, and she didn't believe me at first. She put the phone down. I could hear all these people in the background. She came back to the phone and said, oh my God, we're just getting the news down here that he died. So it was incredible. Yeah, I was actually at the house. I didn't know the ambulance was actually on the way when Nick and I left the house that morning. So there's more to the story. I went to the wake the next day. Bester allowed me to come in with Silky Sullivan to the wake. And we got to spend time at the wake. Well, unbelievably, I remember walking in. I had my hand on Elvis's casket, looking right down at him, and Silky's right next to me, punching me in the arm, asking me what's wrong with his picture. And I said, well, bless his heart, he's with the Lord. He says, no, Sax, what does it mean when a man has a smile on his face like that? And there was a room full of people there. It was in the foyer in Graceland, where the casket was, where Elvis was lying in state for the wake. And I said, I don't know, what do you mean? He said, what does it mean when a man has a smile on his face like this? This is what Silky said. He said, it looks like he's just been laid. Everybody in the place could hear him. I'm ducking under Elvis's casket, wanting to get out of there. So anyway, he thought it was funny. I guess maybe it wasn't so funny, but it's something he said, and I'll never forget it. But that's who Silky Sullivan was, the kind of guy he was. But anyway, I was there the day Elvis died. I went to the wake, and that's it. Okay, if you have any questions or you want to leave a comment or whatever, be glad to hear from you. Okay, take care of yourself.